infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Well, let me do a little, I suppose, official intro for us. Because it's going to be tough because whenever I'm doing the Patreon video stuff, I know it's going to just translate to video because everyone will... So I need to remember that this is also for audio only. Ryan will already be good at this, but I will not. So, because I don't normally do the video to audio, so I'll have to remember if I'm doing like hand gestures, I need to like actually speak what I'm doing. So, okay. On this episode of Into the Fray, I welcome back on with me my boys, Ryan Sprague, a.k.a. Plaidman, and Mister-Sam Shearon, the Dark Artist. Welcome back on, you guys. So good to see you.
Sam and I are too polite. We're both like, who's going to talk first? Thank you, Shan.
It's already working out so well. No, I'm just gonna.
You don't ever have to tell me to talk. You're gonna want me to shut up by the end of this episode.
You make such a great guest, Ryan. I mean, you know, and I say it's so good to see you guys because most people realize that I do audio only recordings for ITF, but we are on video at this moment because the video is going up for all of our Patreons, actually, not just my own. So we can see each other right now. And Plaidman is in plaid. He has not disappointed today. So thank you for that.
Of course, I had like 10 shirts to choose from. I was going to try to put them all on, but you wouldn't have been able to see me. The whole screen would have just been plastic.
I should have worn mine. I actually have a black and white and grey plaid shirt. I should have worn that.
I have a red one.
Never too late.
Next time, yes.
On episode 800.
Ooh. Yeah, we're going to double it up. Okay. And we'll double up on the clothes. We'll get extra padding so we can just sweat our bags off while we're recording.
I know. I'm starting to regret it already. I'm like, let's get out of here. I might be naked by the end of this. Just warning your patrons.
Hey, I mean,
I've done that.
More signups. Why not? They'll all clamor to see what in the actual hell happened on episode 400 of ITF. You know?
Oh my God! Did I ever tell you two about? Oh my God! I'm like hijacking this already.
No, go hijack. Do it.
When I was doing an ITF auxiliary episode very early on, I was interviewing Josh Zeman. You know, the guy who made Cropsy and the serial killer shows and stuff like that. And that was back in the day when I used to record in my closet in New York City. And those were the classic ITF days. And it was so hot. It was in the middle of summer and I was shirtless in the closet, nothing on. And boom, he connects and our video is on. Never happened to me before. So I'm just sitting there completely in the nude and immediately I like pushed the camera off and I just remember reconnected and he was like, whoa, I didn't know it was going to be that type of interview, but okay, let's do this. And then that happened again during a recording I did where my landlord came in the apartment to show the apartment.
Oh,
while I was recording, he just came right in willy-nilly and was showing off the apartment. Opens the door while I'm in the middle of a recording, and there I am naked in the closet.
You were actually naked, though, not just shirtless?
I was in boxer briefs. That was it.
Wow.
And, they didn't get the apartment. So Yeah.
Those are
the adventures of podcasting.
It's a tip for anybody that doesn't want their apartment to be sublet or rented or bought. Just plant yourself in there, just in your skivvies. It'll work out all right.
Just put a naked man in the cupboard and you're good.
Yeah.
You're golden.
I did not hear that,
my
Josh.
early memories of ITF. Yeah.
I didn't hear that Josh Zeman story ever. That is incredible. I love this.
Why he never came back on? No, just kidding.
You're like, remember me from ITF Auxiliary? I do Somewhere in the Skies now. You want? He's like, you just hear crickets. You're like, I don't know why. What's his problem?
Like, yeah.
No, welcome back on, you guys. It's so good to have you here, and I know that everyone is extremely excited about this. And I did post offer. I put the offer out there to my patrons, and there are a couple of questions, of course, for you guys. But before we get there, and some of the questions will be answered just in this warm up before we hop into a couple of stories and whatever else we need to get onto, which I'm sure that the train will go far off the tracks as it usually does. But what have you guys been up to? I mean, that's a big question on everybody's mind. It's been a long time since we've spoken, especially for Maine. As we talked about in the very beginning, we have talked sooner rather than later for a Patreon episode, but that was for patrons only, for all of our patrons. What's been going on in you guys' lives and professional careers and pods and all of it? Let's hear it.
Man.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I started Somewhere in the Skies, which, Shan, I always tell people, like, you are the reason Somewhere in the Skies exists. You guided me every step of the way, from everything technical to literally creatively and everything in between. So I will always be forever in your debt for that. I started a podcast about UFOs, and for some reason, people listened to me and continue to listen. So that's kind of what I did. I wrote a couple books as well, inspired by the podcast and my travels around the country, world at this point, interviewing people who've seen and experienced UFOs and, the possible occupants of said UFOs. And yeah, it's been crazy. I've just been, building up my research files and moving to another country. I now live in the UK, and it's crazy what has happened between, the early days of ITF and now, and so many amazing memories along the way. So yeah, that's it. Plaidman has up and moved out and become an expatriate.
Well, and might I just say, might I interject that was such a natural progression that was going to happen anyway. And I mean, I do appreciate you saying that was me, but that was all you. It was 100% you. And then you started I remember you started wanting to, like, oh, well, I'll edit, the auxiliaries. And cause you were getting the people that you wanted to talk to, you were executing the interviews, and you're like, well, I can edit. I'm going to edit it too for it. And I'm like, Ryan, this is like, you should just, you're already doing all of this. So that was a natural deal for you to just graduate into your own space and look at it now. I mean, it's huge, as it well should be, and it will continue to grow. So yeah, I had to say that.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was a hunger to learn. Like, I loved learning from you about how everything worked. Like, how do you start a podcast? How do you grow it? How do you, like, do all of that? And it was something I never imagined myself doing, to be honest. So it was so cool to kind of, stumble along the way and learn, succeed, fail. And it's the fact that the three of us are, like, sitting here right now, it's just surreal, like, how much all three of us have grown since then. And that people continue to support all three of us along the way. It really, it was something truly special. And the fact that we're here today shows, like, how much I think it means to all of us. So no, thank you. I'm going to shut up now.
And Mister-Sam.
Yeah, Ryan, I think you've done far more than you're letting on. I mean, you've been on television, you've done documentary appearances, all kinds of things, but you've done more than most can even dream of, and it's really impressive to see. You're sort of the benchmark, really, for anybody who's getting into the subject of UFOs and the whole phenomena that surrounds it, government or secret aircrafts or alien beings, whichever it may be. You're the sort of guy that everybody seems to be bringing up these days as, have you heard of Ryan Sprague? Or check out Somewhere in the Skies. It is the benchmark for me anyway. And there's a lot of podcasts out there. You know, there are literally hundreds of podcasts out there talking about UFOs. A lot of them regurgitate the same old things, but not Ryan Sprague. If you're ever touching on a piece of history, you go on such a rabbit hole, deep dive. It's impressive. It's incredible. It's a catalog that people can refer to. And so I take my hat off to you, you know.
Oh, thanks.
Well done. Yeah. Inspiring.
Thank you.
More books.
Working on it.
Yeah.
Working on it. As long as Shannon and Beyond the Fray will keep having me, I'm going to keep cranking those babies out because I'm a writer. Like, that's my true passion. So, yeah. Anyways, enough about me. Sam, what have you been up to, man?
What have I been up to? Wow. What haven't I been up to? My word. I mean, as usual, creating album covers and book covers and sort of just really, that's the day job in a sense. But I'm now in a position where I'm starting to create for myself and put out my own projects, which essentially it's kind of, it might sound strange to some people saying, you know, oh, well, but isn't that all of your work anyway? It's not. That's, you know, if I do 20 book covers for David Weatherly, that's his book. It may very well feature my artwork, but that's his book. And now I'm sort of branching into my own books and writing my own short collections of horror stories with my own artwork and that kind of thing. But yeah, I've been busy. Been doing book covers for Ken Gerhard and Lauren Coleman, and I mean the list is endless. And it is living the dream to sort of work with people that you would see on documentaries like yourself, and actually just have a phone call from someone and say, hey, let's collaborate, let's work on a piece of work. So I'm still doing that. I'm not closing the door on it at all. And it's just nice to be able to breathe when you get to a sort of area in your career where it's not so much a race anymore of, you know, you're trying to be seen so that you can actually put your own work out there and it be recognized in the hopes of maybe getting, you know, more work perhaps on the table. It's now gotten to a position where I'm having to say no to people, and I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but I'm actually having to turn people down. And it's a great feeling, but it's also very disheartening and frustrating for me because I want to do all of these things and there just isn't enough time. There's not enough hours in the day. There's no point in sort of killing yourself over trying to get everything done. So that's the only downside of what I've been up to, is really juggling and choosing who gets my time. It's going to be a very interesting next 12 months. I've been sitting on something that I've not been able to talk about, NDAs, and it's really paved the way for something that I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. And it's so annoying, but I'll say stay tuned for that. And aside from that, you know, as I say, just working on the album covers. I just did the new Filter album, which will be out in June. And a bunch of other bands. Jason Charles Miller's albums just come out. Kill Devil Hill album's coming out. Again, more books by David Weatherly. Yeah, I mean, it's busy. It's good. That's my life.
Nice.
I mean, David. What was that?
Visiting haunted houses. You know, when you have your spare time, that's what I do. Is if I ever get a weekend that I can beam away, I always carve out a month to go to England, and I'll be going in June. So I may even be driving up to Edinburgh. I'll let you know.
Oh, please.
Uh-oh.
Finally, we'll meet in person because we never did in LA, which is absolutely
yeah. That's so bizarre.
Shannon, oh my God!
What happened
Shannon
there?
and I met between ITF early days and now.
Yeah.
Shannon and I met in in New York City. That was an adventure, to say the least.
So fun. That was so fun.
Wow.
Like,
I met Shannon on Small Town Monsters UFO documentary. So it's like we've met each other, but
now why did it? So it was just schedule wise, you guys couldn't match up out there.
Yeah,
just got crazy.
Ryan was always, and I was always.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I worked so much at Coffee for Sasquatch in Los Angeles. And it was just crazy. Like, that was my life. When I wasn't doing the podcast, I was making overpriced lattes for Paramount Studios and
craft services,
Chris Pratt and stuff. Yeah. I remember one day the entire Avengers crew came into the shop because we here's a shout out to Coffee for Sasquatch. They're right next to Golden Apple Comics in Hollywood. Yeah, Sam, you probably know it well. Yeah. So they were doing a sketch or something for like James Corden's show, I think, next door at the comic book shop for, I think Endgame was coming out or something, Avengers Endgame. And the entire Avengers cast came into the coffee shop. And I'm not kidding you. I think I pooped a little in my pants.
I would have.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. It was
a little bit of poop.
A little bit. Little turtle head.
So somehow, whenever Sam is on, especially, and he's called me out for this, whenever Sam is on, the word poop comes out of my mouth. And he's called me out on it because it is true. I remember long back in the day, he's like, why do you always bring up poop? I'm like, you're on. I don't know. I don't know what this is. No, but that reminds me.
It was bound to happen.
It was. So now I got it out. I feel better. Clear the air. And pun intended. But that actually does sound like the end of whatever the hell the movie was that they all went in and they're all eating the shawarma at the very end, right? So you're like, this is literally the end of that movie is in my coffee shop. That's pretty cool, actually.
Circle, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Were they two?
Huh?
No, they were not. That would have been, I would have literally, I think, exploded if that had happened.
What was that question, Sam? It kind of cut you off.
Say what?
What was that question that you asked him? It cut you off.
Were they in costume?
They were not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank God they were not. But yeah, we had everyone come in there. Patton Oswalt came in like every other day. Never bought a single drink. Just came to use the restroom.
That's why he's rich.
I know, right? He'd walk in, use the restroom, walk out. Never acknowledged a single soul in there. It was like he was the ghost of Patton Oswalt.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like him. He should buy a coffee though.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome guy, huge comic book nerd, but yeah.
You guys watch his doc, or well, I suppose it's really his wife's, but about her obsession with the Night Stalker. And she's passed on now, but she didn't get to see the fact that they ended up catching the very person that she was onto. So pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, I do remember when that was all happening, and God, he was just that. Yeah, that was really interesting. That whole, and it ushered in like a whole new, like retroactive way of catching serial killers, which is insane. I know you cover serial killers a lot, Shan, on ITF in the past and whatnot. Like the fact that now we can find these people so easily, it's. I always wonder, like, it must be so much more harder to be a serial killer nowadays and get away with it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, even back
that's
then,
where this conversation
well, here goes the train. It's fine. It's just what we do. The fact that they can take tread from a shoe and they can narrow that down, and they're like, unfortunately for you, son, this was a limited edition shoe. They only made 5,000 or whatever the hell the number was. I'm just reaching for an arbitrary number, but that ended up being, the impetus for and there's been a few different night stalkers, but for this one in particular, that's how they got him, which is pretty damn incredible. That's how they narrowed it down. So yeah, I would imagine nowadays it's even worse. Now you got cameras everywhere, and
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, and that's the question I get all the time in the UFO world. Is with all the technology today, how have we not, how is no one taking a picture of their abduction? Or like, why aren't we getting better photos and videos of UFOs? And I don't pretend to have like a answer for that. But it is an interesting question to ask.
I will say though, I mean, this is an iPhone 11. I think it's an 11. I don't even know. It's at least an 11 or 10. And actually, I think my 10 took better pictures. I remember whining about that. So this is an 11. And I will say that if I took a picture out my window right now of a bird, it would look like gobbledygook. It would look like a blob squatch that I see on Facebook every goddamn day. So I kind of get it in some respects. But then in most cases, the whole like, well, everyone has got the phone in their pocket. Why the hell don't we have better video and picture? It's just, it's not there yet. It's not like this is a telephoto video that I can, shoot at something that's 10,000 feet in the air that looks like a Tic Tac. It's not going to happen. It's not going to turn out good at all, even in the daytime. So, yeah, anyway.
Yeah. It really frustrates me, as you're saying there. It's almost as though, we don't have the technology. We should have the technology, but we don't have the photography today. Is you talk about this, ridiculous high resolution stuff. But I went to a show 2 or 3 weeks ago to see a friend of mine play in Los Angeles. So, he's playing in a rock country band, and I go there, and I wanted to take, just a picture of him live. I didn't want to stand there with my phone like people do, film the whole thing. But I wanted to get a photograph of him live, and I hold my phone up, and I put it in the camera mode, and I, point it at him, and all of a sudden on screen, he looks like he's 50 feet away, and he's right in front of me. And it was so frustrating. And so, I mean, we've all tried to take a picture of the moon when it looks incredible. And then you put your camera up, and all of a sudden it's this tiny little dot in the sky, and you just think, "Grr!" There's no way we're going to get shots of UFOs or even Bigfoot. You put in front of you, and then you hold your camera up, and he looks like he's 50 feet away. It's never going to happen.
It's just like the objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. We have to get out of this mindset that it's not real because we can't get a decent photo or a picture. Well, now that's you try to go take a picture of the bird that's, as you say, 50 feet away. It's going to look like it's 100 yards away. So that is a simple explanation for many, many cases. Not all of them. I understand that, but anyway.
And last argument on that, I promise, and then we can actually start your show the way you wanted, Jen.
This is the show. This is why I love talking to you guys, because this is what happens.
It's random.
Yeah,
I know.
Yep.
Well, and again, like playing off of that, these Bigfoot sightings, UFOs, like it's such a deeply personal, immediate experience that look at like in the new book, Shan, that you just published of mine, like so many of the people literally in the book say, I had a camera with me, but I didn't think to like take a picture because I was so enthralled by what I was seeing and like and stuff like that. And I think that's a big part of it too. Like UFOs, cryptids, ghosts, they put you so in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly feel like that is a reason for many of these things, that they're like, yo, stop like looking down at this thing constantly. Like there's a whole world out there. We're finally revealing ourselves to you. Just like pay attention. So I kind of look at it that way too, of like that experience right then and there is for you and you only, not for Instagram, not for your 40,000 followers or whatever. Like it's for you. And there's a reason it's happening. Not for everyone, but for a lot of people, I think that's why they don't take photos or videos. And like you said, I get sent videos every day, and the way they describe what happened could not be more different from the photo or video they sent me.
Sure.
So, I think that has a lot to do with it too. So.
So with that, Ryan, I mean, because as Sam said earlier, with your show, I do feel like it does transcend many others because of the fact that you basically just have your fingers on the pulse of everything that's going on. You know the names, you know the happenings, you know whether it's government-wise or just personal stories of late. It's all recent stuff. This is not a regurg show, which, hey, that's fine. there's a time and place for those as well. Totally fine, not bagging on those. But with that said, you were talking about the fact that there's not a lot of photos and videos. Have you been sent or have you seen a video or photo that has taken you aback, that has made you go, okay, this is actually like really very interesting?
There's one that I covered recently. I started doing like live streams every Sunday where I cover the latest UFO news, or like if there is a compelling UFO video, I'll show it to the audience and get their thoughts on it and kind of crowdsource, possibly trying to explain it. And because like I'm not a photo video analyst, I'm not like a MUFON field investigator. I'm a listener. I like people's stories. That's my ufology, as I call it. And I thought it'd be a cool way to like crowdsource trying to explain some of these videos. And there was one that happened in I believe it was Medellin very recently, where a pilot in like a very small kind of like Piper plane or something filmed, and I'll try to find it for you. Maybe we can post it in the show notes. It is the clearest UFO video I have ever seen. And it was this almost manta ray shaped object, metallic, that zipped right by the side of a small plane. Clear as day. You can play it in slow motion and just watch this object almost hit the plane. And it was crazy. However, like, you know, a lot of people said, oh, it's a balloon, or, you know, this, that, drone, blah, blah, blah. Probably. But the pilot still doesn't know what it is. They're right now looking for like radar to see if anything caught this thing on radar at the time where they were, triangulate where it happened. Blah, 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 blah. There's people working on that are far more, you know, technologically savvy to do that sort of stuff than I am. But yeah, I posted it on the show, and I think it left most of our audience like speechless. It was an amazing video. The other video I think people should really check out is the Aguadilla, Puerto Rico UFO. This is an object that was seen over the airport there in Aguadilla, and it was caught on like a I believe it's a Homeland Security sensor system of cameras, and it follows this object as it goes over the airport and then over the water. Goes into I don't know, did we might have covered this on your Patreon, I'm not sure, but the object goes into the water, comes back out. So immediately, this is a transmedium object, which is one of what they've kind of coined the observables of highly anomalous aircraft that can do that, go from like space to air to water, back out again. And this object is displaying all of that. It goes into the water, comes back out, splits into two, goes back into one object, and then darts off. It's incredible. And there have been organizations that have done really good peer-reviewed papers on it, and they still have absolutely no idea what this is. So those are two videos I would suggest people check out. Just Google Medellin UFO pilot. That first one will probably pop up, and then Aguadilla UFO. Stunning footage. If there were a UFO video, I would turn people to. That's it. To be like, whoa, like this is not just, you know, a drone or even like a drug smuggling aircraft or something like that. It was it gave me the heebie-jeebies, and it still does every time I watch it.
I mean, once you have a pilot, I trust their judgment. I mean, depending on how many, probably thousands of hours this person has been in the air, if I may say, that's usually around the number these guys get to, and it is insane. It adds up very quickly. These guys know what's in the sky. They know what's normal, and if he's going, I cannot give you an explanation for this, then I lean towards maybe this honestly being something really, really odd, and not a balloon, as many have said.
Especially with like the speeds they go. Like these guys know an object passing them. If they're going a certain speed, like they know that object, you know, they can kind of deduce how fast things are going, the distance it's at, the size that it's at. And the way this pilot described it, he said this was not a balloon. Like balloons float, and even if they get caught in the wind, they're not going as fast as a freaking plane. And he said this thing was going quadruple the speed that he was. So crazy stuff.
Do you guys remember it was pretty big online there for a little while. It wasn't that long ago in relation to things. I think, and I really honestly don't know what came of it, because as we were talking about UFO Twitter in the very beginning between us, it was something I was following there for a while. Essentially, it did in fact look a slightly manta ray shaped, but someone also put up comparatively a Batman balloon, I think it was, which actually looks so very similar. And then I was like, oh shit, that actually might be what that is. Was that the culmination of that encounter, that sighting?
That was a completely separate incident. That actually was released by The Debrief, a website that I sometimes write for. And that photo was leaked to us at The Debrief from a member of the intelligence community. And that photo was taken from a pilot in a fighter jet. And yeah, it made the rounds, and people were wondering what the heck it was. But again, this is why I like that these things get out to the public, because the public have, you can have endless people analyzing these things instead of some like small government entity with limited funds to try to explain these things in our skies that shouldn't be there. And just like the internet does, within days, people were like, that's a Batman balloon. Like literally, you can buy that at like your close convenience store. Like it's clear as day, it's a Batman balloon. So yeah, that was I don't fault The Debrief for releasing this. No. They were given a UFO photo from an intelligence official. They're gonna put it out there. But I think that's good that we were able to explain it. That's the job of any UFO researcher or investigator, is to explain these things, not to say, oh, they're all from Zeta Reticuli or time travelers from the future. Sometimes they're just Batman balloons.
I think it's great that you bring up a really good point, that the more people that look at this, even if it turns out to just be a balloon, then that's a great thing, because it's measurable and it's something we can compare future videos to as a reference of that's definitely what this is. Then now we know what's not a balloon and what is a balloon. But because we have, so many people throwing in their opinions of what it could be, what it couldn't be, we end up with a brilliant list of a blueprint of how to look at anything that comes across the table from that point on. I don't know if you remember it was a year or two ago, maybe a year ago, a chap had posted a video that went newsworthy viral about the Loch Ness Monster, and I debunked it. I don't know if you caught that one. But he had said that he had had a drone that was filming his kayaking team, that they were raising money for charity. And it turned out that it was some kind of, fake that he had created in order to get more hits to raise money for his charity or whatever, or for his own pocket, who knows. And so you might think, oh, well, that's a nice idea to get views. But to me, it's disingenuous to suggest that this was a real video. And he was putting it out as though it was a real video. Anyway, within minutes of me doing a Google search, I did a rabbit hole deep dive on toys, and I found the exact plesiosaur plastic toy, same color markings, shape, everything. And I did a Photoshop collage comparison where I overlaid the toy with the footage, and there was no question that's what it was. And this went around and around, and I'm sure you've come across this as well, where a piece of footage has been debunked, and we talked about this earlier, and yet it still does the rounds. And this Loch Ness footage that has been fully debunked and accepted that it's not actually the real thing has now been included in Paranormal Caught on Camera TV show.
Oh no.
You just think, what is the world coming to, when instead of educating people and showing something of value, to even show what it isn't, they're actually trying to pass it off as real? Is heartbreakingly annoying. because, you know, we're left to look stupid. Everything's a mystery. Play the silly music. And again, I'm saying I went for a meal with Miguel, Red Pill Junkie, and Greg Bishop 2 weeks ago, and we talked about this, how we shouldn't get too upset when people are discovering this for themselves for the first time, when they find an old Bigfoot video or an old UFO video or an old ghost video that we know, because we've been around the circuit for so long, that we know it's not real. But these new teenagers, even people in their 20s and 30s who are just getting into the scene because of television, they're now finding these videos and they're sharing them on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and they're doing the rounds, and they're creating their own YouTube videos and their own podcasts based around footage that we know is fake. And it's really annoying. But Red Pill brought up a really good point. They're on their own journey of discovery. I just wish that there was a database where you could check, you know, just feed something in and retro research it and sort of reverse image things and say, is this fake or not? Let me find out. You know, like a fact checkers, but for the weird stuff. Maybe there will be one day. I mean, there's the place in, is it Sweden, where there's a whole library of unexplained is collected there. But that doesn't seem to be particularly well known or very well accessible. And maybe there should be an online presence of all of the unexplained where people can actually reference and say, is this real? Oh, this is from 1972. Yeah, of course, it was a balloon or whatever, you know. It's annoying. Yeah, it happens.
It is. It's a frustrating thing because, it's so exciting to see younger people getting interested in cryptozoology and UFOs. Like, I used to be a proud, like, one of the youngest UFO researchers, and now I'm like an old man and my beard gets whiter every day. And it's depressing for me, but it's exciting for the field. And you do see, you know, these younger people, they get so excited when they have a revelation, and then, you know, unfortunately you kind of have to be the one to rain on their parade. But yeah, it's hard, Sam. I will say, to kind of put a pin on that, right now artificial intelligence, I think, is where a lot of that is going to come from. Obviously AI is like the big thing right now. Everyone's talking about it. It's terrifying, it's exciting. Yeah, it's terribly awful. But there does seem to be some interesting things coming out of it, at least in terms of UFO investigation, I guess. I recently was visiting New York City, and there's a new company out there called Enigma Labs. And they came up with an AI system that they're putting out in an app very soon, where if you take a UFO video, you can send it right to the app. It goes into an algorithm, and using a database that they're going to be, you know, crowdsourcing and eventually machine learning through the algorithms, will be able to like answer you back and be like, that's a plane, that's a bird.
Wow.
Or yeah. So it's coming, man. I know they're launching the app very soon. It'll be in very early stages. The algorithm has to grow and grow and grow, so it's going to take time, but it's really interesting. And again, one of the only good things I see coming out of AI. I'm probably going to regret saying that in like the next year or so, but yeah, we'll see.
That's one of the frightening things with AI, isn't it? Is we're seeing, and even, you know, maybe 5-10 years ago, we were seeing CGI videos that were very impressive UFOs. I mean, some of them, I remember I think it was 2008, there's one you might be familiar with where it was completely CG created. Even the palm trees were put in place and layered, where these things sort of, they're up in the sky and they sort of fly down and then they come up, and they're these big black chunky looking mechanical things with red lights. And it was so like Star Wars level real. I thought this was it. I thought, oh my God, this is it. We've got a UFO on camera that is undeniably, of course, turned out it wasn't real. Even the palm trees were fake. And that was in 2008. So now we're seeing a position where AI is taking over the creative space, whether it's writing or even music recently, sound scores for films. People are being pushed out of their jobs because of that. And of course, the art world, where book covers and album sleeves and posters are being, you know, taken over the space it's really disheartening to see that it's not being used for what it should be used, which is, medical research or some kind of, mass need for brains and speed and time and finding out diseases that we don't have time for. That's what AI should be for, not to be writing poetry and paintings. It's frightening to see that we're going to have even more realistic UFO videos that are you just won't be able to tell. And then we're in a position, is AI going to start lying to us? Is someone going to hack in and tell you that that's real? That this is real? AI told me it was. That's the frightening part for it. And then we have the Terminator situation. Did you see New York have now implemented the robot dogs on the street?
Oh God!
Oh boy!
Police dogs on the street. People are joking, saying it'll last 10 minutes and someone will kick it.
What is their purpose? What are they doing with these robots?
At the moment, they're saying it's purely surveillance and it's a test, but that's a slippery slope. When you have RoboCop walking around, literally, only takes something to go wrong, and someone to hack in. Who knows?
Oh man!
Yeah, right.
Bring it. Let's do this thing. No, are these like the DARPA dogs that you can kick them over and they get back up? They figure it out. They problem solve.
Yeah, those things are terrifying.
Oh man, are they ever?
It looks like
piss lasers at you.
Yeah.
Piss lasers. The new Ryan Sprague.
New hashtag.
Love it.
No, one of my favorite photos, and I think I talk about this every time I'm on with you guys, because you totally get it as far as things being regurgitated, is that the lamp photo of the mothership, and it's just it's a dining room lamp with a reflection of the photo taken out the window, and they're like, oh my God, there's the mothership, it's coming for you. Nope, it's a reflection of the dining room table lamp. Yeah, so love that one.
Yeah, I got one the other day, and God bless this person. I really hope they're not watching or listening. But they sent it to me. They were in London, and they were taking video or photos over a pond, and they're like, "Oh my God, I just saw something like in my photo." And of course, my first question is, did you actually see the object, or was it just something you noticed in the photo? That's like ufology 101. Because usually, if you didn't actually see it, it's probably just, it's probably explainable. Not in all cases. So, yeah. So he sends me the image, and the object was the same exact color as all of the shrubs and trees around. And I'm like, all right. I was like, did you try zooming in at all? And they're like, no. So I zoomed in. I was like, send me the highest resolution you can, and they did, and I zoomed in, and I could literally see the stem of the leaf. It was a leaf from the tree, that he was taking photos of that had blown past the camera. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff you deal with, and you have to take it just as seriously as the mothership. Otherwise, we're never going to find answers, and an AI algorithm might be able to explain something, but it's never going to have, I think, that inherent, I don't know, intuition or even doubt that a human could have when analyzing these things too. So, yeah, it's a weird struggle right now, I think, with proving any of this stuff. Ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, like photos and videos used to be what we turned to for evidence, and now it's like our biggest enemy and our biggest obstacle. That's why I stick with witness testimony. Like that, for me, that's it. I know it's just a story, and everyone always says that. Like it proves nothing, but at the end of the day, it's all I have. It's all I have. There you go.
This was the Bible of images that that's all we have.
Sam is holding up the Encyclopedia of UFOs. Who is that by?
Oh my God, I love it.
This is edited by Ronald D. Story, a comprehensive and objective A to Z of sightings, personalities, theories, and a feature articles illustrated. It's one of those that you find in an old bookstore kind of thing, but it has these old classic photographs where you just, okay, is that a pan lid? Someone just having a laugh.
Oh, that's the nipple. I love that photo. That's the famous nipple UFO.
and you have all these classics,
Yep.
You can see those down on
just-
the strip every night. Nipple UFOs, just flashing them, and yeah.
I mean, what is that? What is that? I'm sorry for everyone who's just listening and can't see this, but these are just old 70s photographs and 1960s photographs. And that's all we had to go on in those days, But there we have it.
Yep.
Crazy. I have a question. What is this whole Jake Paul thing going on right now? Did that already fizzle out? What is this? He's got inside information or like the best video or photo or some shit.
What is they can run through it briefly, because it's a weird, convoluted story. It's Logan Paul, actually, the older brother, I believe. I don't know. He's either the older or younger one. Who cares?
Yeah, they're the same.
Honestly, gives a crap.
Yeah. But huge eye roll with them. But yeah, I was just it was.
I know.
Came across my hashtag UFO Twitter the other day, and I'm like, what is this?
Well, here's my thing. Like, here's this YouTube person, stepping on all of my worlds. So I'm a huge WWE fan. I've been a wrestling fan forever. Stone Cold, The Rock, Mankind, my heroes. Like those are I'm wearing Mick Foley's shirt right now, Mankind shirt that he would wear all the time. That being said, Logan Paul is now a WWF superstar. Like he's one of the best wrestlers in the WWE. I can't fault him. Like he's an incredible athlete. But now he's stepping on my UFO field, and he's like in all the news for like this smoke. What would you call it? Not the smoking gun, but like this really good UFO video that was supposedly taken near Area 51 back in like the mid 90s.
And why would he have it?
So, okay, I'll go through it really quick because I don't want to bore your audience. James Fox, the documentary filmmaker, he's made The Phenomenon. I Know What I Saw, Out of the Blue. He went to this guy, Chuck Clark's home out in Nevada, and was shown a video on VHS of a UFO event where these two guys were in their car, and this glowing orange saucer like literally came down above their windshield, and it was so close and so kind of clear that you could like see the skin of the UFO, and it was like it was just brilliant from what James Fox said. One of the best videos he's ever seen. He said, like, this is it. This is the video. And everyone's like, okay, well, where is it? Why haven't we seen it? And he's like, because Chuck Clark, this guy who owns the video, is the only one who has it, and he refuses to put it out to the public. So James Fox had gone on Logan Paul's podcast and talked about this. And Logan Paul, being a millionaire and being like the goofy prankster narcissist he is like, I can get it. Like, I'm going to get the video. So Logan Paul goes out in the middle of the desert in Nevada where this Chuck Clark guy lives and offers him on the spot a stack of $100,000 for the video. And Chuck Clark, the guy who owns the video, said, no, I'm not selling it. No. And he's like, are you kidding me? $100,000 right now. Just give me the VHS. Dude's like, nope, not. Like, if you want to see it, I'll show it to you, but I'm not getting, I promised the person who gave it to me that I would never distribute it. And Logan Paul was like, oh, okay, fine. I'll watch it. So he brings him in, they watch the video, again, on a VHS. So he pops it in, shows Logan Paul the video, and come to find out, before Logan Paul went, he had a contingency, and he put a secret camera in the button of his shirt. And when Chuck Clark showed him the video, he recorded, the video.
What an asshole.
And
okay.
Now Logan Paul has a probably pretty bad version of it. I don't know how good a button camera video of a VHS would actually be, but it's the video. It's the video. And right now he's holding onto it. He hasn't shown it. And he's Logan Paul. He's going to hype it up and build it. He's going to find a way to commodify it. And we're either going to see it or we possibly never will. So that's where the UFO field is right now. Logan Paul is involved, and it's because he stole basically a UFO video from someone. My problem with that, I'm against what Logan Paul did, but at the same time, like, if this guy has one of the best UFO videos ever, why can't we see it? I understand you kept your word to this person, but come on, man. Like, if you really want the best for this topic and for the truth to get out there, show it to the public. So it's weird. I see both sides of the argument. Logan Paul's argument was, well, he didn't shoot the video. It was given to him, but he doesn't own it. Like, he's just in possession of it and refuses to get it out there. He's like, so that was kind of his argument. I see both sides of it, but that's where we're at, Shan.
I see both sides, but I mean, either one of the Pauls, I'm in douche canoe territory with them. I mean, for pretty much anything they do. So, automatically I'm just hard eye roll anytime I hear their names. But I do see both sides of it. However, Paul is doing, he's doing an opposite but the same. The guy turned down $100,000, but that was his word. So that was very important to him. What is not important to Paul is to get the video out because there was a contingency and he found a loophole and he recorded it. He's going to hold on to it now for monetary purposes, as you say, probably more than likely. I mean, that's what he does. I totally get that. Can't fault him for that, I suppose. But so I guess they're both in the same camp for very different reasons. So now Paul is sitting on it on the same video. So what the hell, man?
Again, it's just a messy, and this stuff happens in the UFO field. I'm sure it happens in the Bigfoot field as well. Like, people claim to have like the best evidence out there, yet we never see it. We never get it. And a lot of these communities are built on hype and anonymous sources and mysteries that will never be revealed.
Get the carrot out.
It going.
Get that carrot out.
Dangle the carrot.
Yeah.
And it has more to do with the people involved than it does the actual mysteries we're trying to pursue.
It's all ego, man. It sucks.
Yeah. I went to Contact in the Desert in 2014 and ended up, hanging out with Nick Pope and all the people backstage having a drink in the evening in the desert in Joshua Tree. And this chap approaches me and my friend Robert Pierce, and we're just, goofing about, talking about our favorite mysteries and videos, and Bigfoot came up in a conversation. And this guy pulls his phone out and says, "Hey, I've got some really, really good footage of Bigfoot." And we said, "Oh yeah," we humored him. We said, "Let's have a look." And he showed us, and it was hard to really make out what he was trying to show us on the screen because obviously it's very small. And then he said that he has some really high def, zoomed in, close up footage. You can see Bigfoot's junk, everything. It's bending down by a river, all this kind of thing. And we said, "Okay, well, let's have a look then." He's like, "Oh no, I'm going to sit on it. I'm not showing anybody, but And we're like, "Well, then why are you telling us? Like, honestly, just why?" It's so frustrating. But as with the Paul brothers, I don't know which one was it who has the UFO stolen. Okay. I mean, two things on that. Yeah, the guy who originally had the footage, it's almost a red flag, isn't it, that someone won't let it out of their hands because for fear of maybe it being analyzed and outed. He's maybe going to get more money from interviews by not giving it away, same as what Logan Paul's doing now. But then it makes you wonder if it's that important and the government start to sort of snoop in on this. Is Logan Paul going to end up becoming disappeared? And that's a good thing.
Yep.
That's one person I'm okay with, like the Men in Black just taking out. I'm not. I shouldn't say that. That sounds like a death threat. Silencing. Please edit taking out Shannon out of this. I don't need the FBI coming after me, or Interpol, I guess.
Yeah.
MI6.
They're like 6 months ago, we got this Sprague guy, aka Plaid Man, talking about taking Paul out. So we need to take a look at this dude.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. So that's where the UFO field is at. The last thing I'll say on all of that is, I'm so sick, and I'd like to know if it's the same in the Bigfoot community. I'm so sick of people making promises. Like right now in the UFO field, the big thing is UFO crash retrieval programs, like whatever crashed in Roswell, whatever crashed in Aztec, New Mexico, or there's supposedly been hundreds of UFO crashes all over the world. These aliens are so advanced, yet their craft are crashing everywhere. It makes no sense to me logically, but apparently there have been programs in a lot of different governments that have retrieved these things. They're in possession of the materials. They're being housed and reverse engineered, blah, 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 to the umpteenth power. But right now in the UFO field, we're getting a lot of people saying it's coming. Like, you're going to hear in the next few months, like on the floors of Congress, from these people who have worked on these crash retrieval programs, they're finally going to come forward and admit that they've worked on these things. And of course, like, the UFO community is just eating it up. Like, these table scraps, they're so hungry for it all. And I don't blame them. And, you know, like, it excites me to hear that stuff. But at the same time, it's like these things come and go, and then we never hear about them again. And it's just all these anonymous sources. And trust me, bro, like, it's going down. Finally, disclosure is happening. And then 6 months goes by and nothing has changed. And these people who create this hype and whatever, it's as if it never happened. It's like everyone gets instant amnesia.
Yeah, it's on to the next thing.
We struggle with that in the UFO field all the time.
Ryan, is that the Gary Nolan thing that you posted about recently, or is that even something separate? Where he says, "Oh, they've been here a long time." Like,
well, yes. So Gary, and I don't want to fault Gary Nolan. I think he has really good intentions in everything he's doing. But he is an individual who a day ago in New York City went to this conference, and he was asked, so are you confident that aliens exist and have visited our planet? And he said, yes, 100%. I know for a fact aliens have visited the planet. And everyone in the audience just gasped. They were like, this guy's like a brilliant Stanford professor who is an immunologist as well, has like come up with like cures for cancers and stuff, has studied and analyzed UFO crash materials from like Jacques Vallée and people who are in possession of these things. And he's saying in front of like a huge audience, yes. And the whistleblowers who have worked on the programs that have reverse engineered them will be coming forward in the coming months. I guarantee it. So at that point, like, his reputation's on the line. So if you're going to come forward with claims like that, just know, like, there's going to be consequences. Or are there not? As I stated, it seems like a lot of these things come and go, and people just seem to forget about it and wait for the next revelation to occur. I sound very cynical right now. I don't want it to seem like everything is bad in the UFO field. There's a lot of good stuff going on too. But yeah, the hype train is alive and well with UFOs.
Yeah,
for your
non-UFO
people.
Yeah,
it chugs.
It is chugging, that's for sure. Yeah, there's been so much going on lately. And that's why we do need the critical eyes. But as you say, the critical eyes are all on this one thing, and everyone's ripping it apart, and they're discussing it, and which is great. We need that, as Sam said earlier. We need that. But then it's like that 24-hour news cycle. It's like, well, that's done. On to the next thing, and everybody forgets about what about this thing over here is a big deal, and what it's very, very frustrating.
I find that with the ghost hauntings, that whole area of the unexplained, it's the same sort of thing is happening. And I always say to people, you know, there's a million shows, and they're all the same in a sense. It's a team of people that go into a place and investigate ghosts for the night, and it's sort of like a cookie cutter formation of, you know, different teams copying each other, and they're all trying to come up with something a little different and a little new. The best one I saw was Portals to Hell with Jack Osborne and Katrina Weidman. Occasionally with a guest, Heather Taddy from Paranormal State originally. And those are really good shows because they are no nonsense. And even Jack Osborne has said, you know, I've no reason to fake this. I'm already famous, blah, 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 that kind of thing. So those are really good. But what we're seeing is, and I'll say this to people who watch certain shows, I'm not going to name them, that are genuinely fake. That's a weird way of saying it, isn't it? Genuinely fake. But it's purely television entertainment, and certain individuals seems to get possessed every episode. We won't name him, but we all know who we're talking about. And yet I will say to friends of mine who say, "Oh, did you see that episode? It was fantastic." And I'll just sort of almost slap myself with irritation because it's not real. If it was real, And that's not to say ghosts aren't real. Of course they are. I've seen them. There's something going on. But these shows are not real. They're purely for entertainment. And I've said to them, you know, the footage you've seen, if that were real, it would be global news overnight. The dead are coming back, or they've never left, or we can talk to the other side, whatever you want to call it. It would be global news overnight. And yet what we're seeing is there are occasional pieces of footage or recordings that appear on fairly reputable shows. It's still entertainment, but shows like Portals to Hell, which unfortunately was cancelled. It shouldn't have been, but it was. That are showing some really valuable footage. And yet, as with the UFO thing, it's treated in such light-hearted manner and non-serious manner that it's just sort of brushed over in the news. You know, you'll get some fantastic piece of footage and then all of a sudden it's gone, as though it never happened. And that's really frustrating, because we are seeing with new technology of fairly good cameras, they still need to be better. You know, we still need to be looking at different ways of using cameras, infrared or whatever there is. You know, instead of just your standard family camera, we need to start seeing an increase in different types of technology to see the things in different spectrums, and we might see more. You know, animals pick up on things because they can see them or sense them, and we don't. We should be maybe looking at that area. But again, it's just there's so much out there that's brushed over because it's all put into the same pot of silly, not real X-Files. It's, you know, even if it landed on the White House lawn, people would think it would be a TV show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, they would. They would, unfortunately. So that's the problem, right? And everybody fights over things like the PG film, or, you know, you take the best UFO video that you can maybe list top 3, and they will always be argued about, just period. And unfortunately, whoever took that video was probably close enough to know that what they were looking at, whether they think it's on or off planet, that's another discussion. But they're like, no, that was actually there. Like, I didn't place that in CGI, or my friend that's good at that didn't do that. I saw that. It was actually there. So that's the inner screams of people that they're like, I know what the whole James Fox, I know what I saw, right? That's unfortunate. All right, guys. Before I take the train, like, so far off, like, we don't even get to, not that we're not here for this, because this is what we do, and I love it, but there are some questions from the patrons, and I think that it was apt for this, because it has been so long. I mean, it was episode 2 and 3 of ITF that you guys were on your own episodes, and we covered your origin stories, right? Every superhero has an origin story, right, guys? So they wanted, we talked about having you guys, now, okay, here's what it was. Origin story for Ryan, but they requested for Sam to talk about a certain flying something that he saw. So, and I don't think that was his origin story of what got him into the paranormal, but they were interested in that. So, and you can tell whatever in the actual hell you want, of course. But Sam, let's start with you. So here were the questions, right? Oh, no, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
Let's start with Ryan, because I just rambled for a minute or two. So let's start with Ryan.
Okay, Ryan, Plaidman, you're on deck. So, origin story. I think that people would realize why you probably do a UFO podcast, and, you know, why you're so finger on the pulse of the whole thing. You have a UFO encounter sighting story, and so let's hear that again. I know that you've probably talked about this, much like my own shadow person story, ad nauseum, and you're like, let's do this again, shall we? But, you know, it's probably been a minute since you've actually told that whole thing front to back here on ITF. So take it away, sir.
Sure. Yeah, and I never want to pretend that everyone has, you know, someone new might be watching your show right now or listening. So it's always good. And it's good for me too, because I'm still working through my own personal sighting always, and I never get sick about talking about it, to be honest. So no, thank you for letting me do that. Yeah, I saw a UFO. It was 1995, and I was in central New York with my family on a kind of like a weekend getaway thing. We would go up to almost right on the border of Canada, up in central New York. Like, literally, there was a river called the St. Lawrence River that basically is on the border of Canada on the other side. And we'd be on the New York side, and we'd stay at this motel called the Fisherman's Wharf, and it had like a dock right outside the motel, so it was really good. I could go out and just fish for hours. I loved fishing when I was a kid, and my parents could just be in the motel and keep an eye on me, and all was good. So one night I was out there fishing, and it was turning dark, so I was reeling my line in to go in for the night. I think there was a Yankees game on, so I was excited to watch that with my dad. So as I'm reeling the line in, I saw lights in the water, and I was a little obviously intrigued by that. So I like crawled down the dock to look in the water, and then I realized that it was a reflection. The lights weren't actually in the water. So I flipped over, and I was just staring directly up at the sky at a triangle. I actually, for anyone watching, I have this right here. This is what I saw. It was a perfect equilateral triangle, 3 white lights on each end, red light in the middle, very prototypical of what a lot of black triangle UFO witnesses have seen. But I did not see like an actual craft. I try to make that clear. I didn't see like machinery or anything like that. It was just a perfect triangle formation, and I couldn't see stars behind it. So I assumed it was a structured craft. Still don't know to this day. But it was very low. It was very big, and it made absolutely no noise whatsoever. And I just watched it for maybe a few seconds. Time was really weird during this whole event. I can't tell you if it lasted a minute or 10 minutes. I honestly don't know. But my dad came out and actually saw it with me. So it wasn't just like my imagination. I had another witness there to see this triangle with me. And the thing I'll never forget is as my dad and I watched the triangle go over the water, I looked up at my dad, and he was as white as a ghost, and he was speechless. He couldn't say anything. And I was like looking at him to tell me, like, what the hell are we looking at right now? What is this? What is this? Nothing. I've never seen him like that stoic ever in my life. And I just remember us watching it go over towards Canada and disappear. And my dad just kind of shrugged, walked back in the motel, flipped on the Yankees game, and left me out there standing on the dock, changed forever. And that was it. I had a nightmare that night about what had happened. I had nightmares for years after about whatever that triangle thing was, and I became obsessed. And you guys know how that goes. Then the books come in, and the chat rooms, and AOL, and the magazines, and the TV shows, and I just became obsessed with UFOs, and I literally never saw it happening. Not a path I ever saw myself going down, but here I am talking to you guys about it today. So yeah, that's my origin.
And I know that this has come up before, and I totally get this. You have gone back and forth as to whether you would want to see that again in any way, shape, or form. So today, what's your answer on that?
No, I'm good. I'm done. Like, I've had a UFO sighting. I've had what I think was a ghost or paranormal experience. Never seen a cryptid, so I guess I got to check that off at some point. I did go to Loch Ness, Sam. I did go to Loch Ness. It was a bucket list moment.
How was that?
Magical. Like, I don't care that I didn't see anything. It was one of the most magical places I've ever been. I'll never, ever forget it. I got engaged that same weekend. So, like, I will always have Nessie and an engagement in the same, like, clump of days to remember. But, yeah. Yeah. So I'm good, Shan. I'm okay. Never seen. That was enough for me. And yeah, we get asked that all the time. Like, would you want to experience something else? And that was enough to shift my paradigm. As a 12-year-old, I had no idea where my life was going, but I can sure as hell tell you it wasn't to become a UFO researcher or podcaster or writing books and stuff like that. But again, I would not change it for anything. And I almost don't want to see anything else. Like, that experience was for me and my father, primarily me, because I'm the one who kind of ran with it. He and I have discussed it. We actually had a really long talk about it not too long ago, and that was really cathartic. I think for me personally, um, just with everything going on in the UFO world, post 2017, where like UFOs are accepted now widely by the public as real, no matter what they are, and I think that kind of really turned the heads of people who don't think about these things as much as we do. And my father was one of those people, and we've kind of hashed it out. We're still no closer to an answer, but it was so cool to like sit at a bar for 2 hours and get wasted with my dad and talk about that night in 1995. Yeah, I'll never forget that.
What are the thoughts from? I don't know that I've ever asked you this. I know what your thoughts are on what the craft is, and I think you should probably touch on that as well. But for both of you guys, on planet, made here locally or off planet?
I believe what I saw was a man-made craft. However, I've changed my mind on what the technology is. I believe that the technology in the craft I saw was not 100% man-made. That's it. That's all I could really say. I don't know where it comes from, what it is, but I still feel like what I saw had some sort of non-human sliver to it. But again, like who knows? I'm never gonna know what it was I saw. It happened so long ago. But yeah, that's kind of where I lay right now.
What about your dad? What does he
Man-made
think?
craft, alien technology.
What about your
or
dad?
Non-human. I should make that clear. Non-human.
Non-human, right?
My dad, like honestly, he doesn't really theorize. He was okay. Just I think that shrug that night was kind of him being like, cool.
Weird.
So the Yankees are playing the the Cleveland Indians in like 20 minutes. Like I got to get in there, right?
To go in.
So,
yeah.
yeah. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's where I stand today on it.
Yeah, I get that sentiment of, because I get people, and I know that you do too, Ryan, and likely you as well, Sam, because you've been in this space for a long time as well. People will email and they'll go, I reached out because, and I don't want to come on the show, but I need you to tell me what happened to me. I need you to tell me what this is. I need an explanation. And, and then you kind of have to break the news. Like that's, if anyone says that they can tell you what this is that you saw and what you just emailed me about, then you should run very, very fast because nobody can give you an answer. So, yeah.
Amen. Yeah. Anyone who pretends to have answers to any of this, like, steer clear. I mean, you can theorize all day long, and I do, and like I'll post theories, but for anyone who says my answer is the answer, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. And these are things that we've seen with our own eyes. And Sam's about to share at least one of what he's seen. But
I can't wait.
I mean, even when you see it with your own eyes, it brings up really more questions than anything. It's not like, oh, well, I saw it. So I know what I saw in the sense that it was something strange and it changed my life and it lights a fire, or, some people, they can't sleep or they have nightmares, as you said. But it doesn't mean that I know for a fact that the four shadow figures that I saw running was from the fourth dimension, and I just happened to glance over and there they were. And it was the only strange thing I've ever, besides like an orb in the forest or whatever in Washington, that I've ever seen with my own eyes. It doesn't mean that I know. It doesn't mean that I have any answers. It just brings up more questions. So that's it. Oh, what about Nova Scotia?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll go through it quick because I want to hear Sam's story. I had a ghosty experience. I think I was okay. How can I make this as concise as possible? I feel like I'm taking up too much time already. Okay. I was in Nova Scotia with Micah Hanks and Paul Kimball and Greg Bishop, and we were doing a talk out there. Amazing, beautiful place. We got to go to Oak Island, which was really cool.
Oh.
They opened the island up for like this random weekend, and we were able to drive on and actually like go explore. So
wow.
cool. But while we were there, we also did a ghost, like a paranormal investigation, something I'd never done before. Like, again, I'm a UFO guy, and I was always really iffy about ghosts, just because I'd never experienced it or saw anything. It's not that I didn't believe, but it was hard for me to accept, especially when, like we've been talking about, you see all these sensational shows, and it's so clear, like offensively clear, that they're making stuff up, or um, that whatever, like the wind is blowing and that's something, whatever. Like we all know. We went to this paranormal investigation at a museum in Liverpool, Nova Scotia, and it was kind of a typical paranormal investigation. People are going through these dark rooms with their EMF readers, all that stuff, and that's when I learned what a spirit box was. Those things that like brush through radio frequencies, like every millisecond, and hopefully catch things, and that's a spirit communicating. Again, I was like, yeah, okay, all right, I'll entertain this. Like, I'm a guest, I need to be polite, let's do this. And I just remember being in a room called the activity room, which is where like kids would go in this museum to hang out and play while parents went throughout the museum. And allegedly there was a spirit in this room of a young child. And mind you, I did not know this before we were in the room. And we brought the spirit box in there, and we're, trying to communicate with something. And eventually we heard whimpers come through on the spirit box, like consistently, which should technologically be impossible, because these spirit boxes brush through radio frequencies, like I said, very quick. But we heard a constant child crying throughout these frequencies. It made no sense, if this machine was working the way it was supposed to. So that was weird. And so like the host was kind of like, it's the kid. It's the kid. Like they're scared. Let's get down to their level and like tell them everything's okay. So we all kind of sat down in the room, and we're like, all right, kid, like it's okay if you want to talk to us. Like, we're not here to harm you or bother you. And again, I'm kind of in the corner, like, all right, I'll play along, like trying to be very respectful. It was more fear, I think, than like not really not like patronizing anyone. I didn't want anything to happen. But we were all quiet. We were all just sitting there, and all of a sudden, I was sitting like cross-legged on the ground. My knees hit the floor, and I felt a weight in my lap, like someone had sat in my lap. And then I literally felt fingers, cold fingers, on the back of my neck. And this all happened within seconds. And I like reared back. I hit my head on like a plank behind me. And I'm not kidding you. It felt like a child had sat in my lap and like hugged me, like put their hands around me and hugged me. And then all of a sudden the weight lifted up. I felt like a cold rush, and that was it. So obviously it freaked me out. Like, I didn't know, that a child was haunting this place, but now I'm hearing that a child's crying, a child like had possibly sat in my lap. And the weird thing was Greg Bishop was in the doorway of the room at the time. And if any of your audience know Greg, he's pretty open-minded, but he's also very he's a very responsible investigator. He's not just going to believe things. He was in the doorway, and I saw him like go up against the frame of the doorway, like just all of a sudden for no reason. And so I immediately spring up and I go over to Greg, and I'm like, why did you just do that? Why did you do that in the doorway? Like, he had no idea what had just happened to me or what was going on in the room. He just happened to like mosey in and do that. And I was like, just tell me why you did it. Like right now, tell me why you did it. And he's like, something needed to leave the room in that moment. And I just felt like I had to get out of the way. And this was seconds after I felt the child get off my lap and like run away. So Oh, that blew, and there was so much other crazy stuff that happened that night. Like, we communicated with the spirit of oh my gosh, who was it? Mac Tonys, the famous
Oh.
author who wrote about crypto terrestrials. He was like a dear friend of Paul Kimball, the gentleman who hosted this ghost hunt. And we allegedly made contact with him that night too. But it was that little ghost child thing that really made me think something was going on in that museum. And again, it was a kind of a paradigm shifting moment for me. I was in another country, like on an island in the middle of Canada, and I just like I wanted my mom. Like, I remember I left the museum, I went outside, and of course, like, I'm not gonna show that in front of like Micah Hanks, who's gonna make fun of me for the rest of my life. I started like I was on the lawn of the museum crying, and
Oh.
I just wanted like my parents to tell me it was okay. Kind of like when I saw the UFO and I was like looking at my dad to explain this, and he couldn't. No one could explain what happened to me that night in Nova Scotia either. It'll always just be for me, and that's kind of how I look at these things. Like, that event was meant for me, no matter what it was.
So cool. And that corroboration with Greg, I think probably cemented that you were not just
That
I mean,
freaked
not
me
that
out.
not that you knew you weren't, you felt what you felt. You knew that. But to have
Yeah,
that corroboration, then you're like, oh shit. Okay, that really did just happen.
yeah. I didn't see anything. Like, I didn't see anything. Whatever the spirit box, maybe that's explainable, but it was what I felt
Yeah.
that really stuck with me. And I think sometimes that's just how these things choose to make themselves known, you know? And that was it for me. So, yeah, it definitely gave me a newfound respect for paranormal investigations and how we try to make contact with the other side. And I imagine on their end, it can't be easy. So, they always
Well,
say, why do they just like move a pencil off a table? I'm like, it probably took them a hell of a lot of energy to move that pencil off the table
yeah.
in our realm. So, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and that's a good segue to my question, because it's sad to think about anybody being left behind, but I think especially a child, right? So, did the child impart upon you somehow a sadness, or was it just the fact that you had the experience and maybe what that means for a bigger picture, and that's why it affected you? And not that it shouldn't have either way, no matter what what it was, or what kind of if adult or child, but yeah, basically, did you feel some kind of a transfer of its or she or his energy, and it was sad and it's a kid and whatever, or was it just the experience itself that was so jarring for you?
The event was jarring, but I do feel like there was a small transferring of emotion. I honestly do. And for me, it wasn't sadness. Like, again, the spirit box thing, I'm like, whatever, a child crying. I didn't feel that from this entity or this spirit. The fact that it hugged me, I felt like it was just trying to like it trusted me, and it felt some sort of connection. I'm sure maybe someone else felt something in that room. There was like maybe 5 other people in the room at that time. But no one reared back and hit their head like I did. I can tell you that much. But no, I felt nothing but just kind of like a immediate connection, not sadness, not like get out of here or I'm stuck or anything like that. I think this child probably just wanders the museum, and you can take that as, oh, they're trapped there forever until they move on. But for me, I think it's just an energy. I don't honestly feel like it was a manifestation of, the child. I honestly feel like it was an energy left behind, an imprint, I guess, if you will. And it probably plays on repeat in that museum constantly. And that's okay. And I just happened to be on the same frequency that day when it happened, when I least expected it. So yeah, I wanted my mommy, as I'm sure that child did.
I love that story. Well, yeah, that kind of takes care of Randy, one of my Patreon members. That takes care of the biggest part of his question was what has happened since the last time we've heard from Sam and Ryan. So obviously that was part of Ryan's latest journey. And Sam, and this is what he said verbatim to both of you guys. Have you seen any more giant insects, UFOs, or other weird stuff since you were regular on ITF? And he said that's for, that first part, of course, giant insects is for Sam, but it was for both of you guys. So Sam, I don't know which part of that you want to cover first. They do want to hear the insect story again, which, yay. Because I messaged, the reason I'm saying yay like that is because I messaged the guys in our group chat as we're planning this, and I told Sam that it was a request, and he says, what am I? Aren't I more than just the guy that saw this thing? Because I don't want to give it away for anyone that hasn't heard it yet, because you will be surprised. I think that's probably why they want to hear it again, because it is a very, very unique story, Sam. But okay, I'm going to shut up. Either you share the insect story first, or you can share your superhero impetus story, or tell us things that have happened as of late, or all of it at once. However you want to orchestrate that.
We can go backward.
Okay, let's do it.
Myself here. I almost think that I'm echoing. Okay. So I think recently, maybe 2 years ago, me and my girlfriend, we were outside, and it was the evening. I think we had just come back from a bar or somewhere, and we were stood outside, had a cigarette, and a large green grasshopper, and we're talking 2019, 2020, maybe even, just sort of flew down the road at night under the streetlights, bright green, and went behind a car. And it happens in a second. So I'm thinking, what did I definitely just saw something. So I said to Jen, my girlfriend, I said, did you just see that? She said, no. I said, quick. So I walked into the road. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to look both ways first. But I walked right into the road, and I looked behind this car, and sure enough, there was this giant green grasshopper. And I've got a photograph of it, so I'll put it in the show notes. And it was one of those things where, you know how a praying mantis will turn its head on a swivel almost, and it looks at you. It had that ability. It was the biggest grasshopper I've ever seen. I had to Google it, and I'm still not sure exactly what it is, but it was massive. It was bigger than my hand. And I have a photograph of it. It's sat on the side of a car, and it's sort of looking around at me. So that's that's weird. They always seem to come to me. It's bizarre.
What?
But the
hell?
reason that's funny for people who don't know, when I was when I was a child, and I'm talking about 5 or 6 years old, I grew up in. For those of you probably tell, I'm from the UK. I was born in Liverpool, and up to around 10, I grew up in Runcorn, Cheshire. And one day, we're going to the shops, me and my mum, and we stepped outside, and she had to dash back in. She'd forgotten something. So I just waited on the balcony outside, and I leant over this balcony, and I looked down into the bushes, and on the other side of the ledge, looking up at me, was a giant grasshopper. And again, I'm 5 or 6 years old, so it probably looked bigger than it was, because I was a small child. But that said, I remember it being a ridiculous size, to the point where it looked like a plastic toy, one of those giant plastic insect toys. Bright green, maybe a foot long. That's how big it was. And I look at it, and as I lean over, I'm startled by it, and I got the impression that it was startled of me, because its head turned, and it, again, like on a swivel, like a praying mantis would, which is strange, because I don't think grasshoppers can do that, which is really bizarre. But its head turned, where its body sort of sat where it was on the ledge in the shade, but its head swiveled around, and it had a man's face. I can't describe it in detail, but it had its head and it had a man's face, like an old man, and he did not look happy. It's hilarious. He did not look happy. It looked as though it were to almost say, "Oh, great, I've got to move now," you know. So I ran inside to tell my mom, like, come and look at this grasshopper with an old man's face. And it was green as well. His face was green. It wasn't like an old man, like a pink face or anything. It was a green grasshopper's skin tone and everything, but it was an old man. And obviously my mom dashes out, oh, what are you talking about? Nonsense. We lean over the balcony and it's not there. It's gone. So I don't know what to make of that. That's just bizarre, but I've been plagued by insects my entire life.
Well, yeah, and there was an incident with a wasp or something, right? That you knew it was inside, and then you went to swat it, and it was actually on the other side of the glass or something. I remember that one too. I mean, it's something with you and these goddamn bugs. They torture you. And by the way, labeling that first story as hilarious, I don't think so. That is horrifying.
It's weird. It's just weird. I mean, I've seen UFOs. I've seen ghosts. I've never seen a cryptid, as Ryan would say, but then is a giant dragonfly considered a cryptid? Maybe. But I've never seen Bigfoot. But sure, I've seen lights in the sky that I can't explain. I've seen shadow people. I've heard things. I grew up in a haunted house. So I'm fully aware that those things sound absolutely outlandish, and it's. I was saying this the other day to a friend where, it's almost difficult to say that you've had so many experiences without sounding like a complete, crazy person who's making it up for attention. I don't care if anyone believes me or not. I get all my attention from the artwork I do. It's not about attention of my weird stories. If that were the case, I'd write a book, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll put them all in a book, like Weird Insect Trauma by, Mister-Sam Shearon's Wasp Phobia Factory. I don't know. But, I mean, the thing is that everybody's seen a dragonfly in their life, I would assume. Never assume, but I would guess most people have seen a dragonfly. And if you were to say to someone, "Oh, I saw a dragonfly the other day," people would be, "Oh, did you? Okay, that's nice." But if you were to say, "I saw a UFO the other day," people are like, they just instantly don't believe you. So, not instantly don't believe you, but it has that pinch of salt. It's got that, has the stigma and the stain of, "Oh, really? Did you? Are you sure it wasn't this?" kind of thing. There's instantly a doubt there. Whereas if you say you saw a dragonfly, no one's going to doubt you. "Oh, yeah, we know what dragonflies are." But I was chased by a giant dragonfly, again, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, in Runcorn, Cheshire, in a town called Murdershaw. And this thing was, it was about a foot long. And I thought, this to sort of really explain how ridiculously big it was, I thought it was a model aeroplane. And it was buzzing as loud. And I really thought there was someone messing around with us. It was me and a kid I used to knock around with, in the woods that we lived by. And we're on the edge of the forest, and I see this, what I thought was a black and yellow model airplane buzzing around just above the field on the edge of the forest. And I said, "Look at that." And then it starts coming towards us, it's getting louder. And we're thinking, that's not a plane. And then it became very apparent that it was a dragonfly, and it seemed to be coming right at us. It wasn't happy. And dragonflies are, I believe, territorial. They will circle you if you go for a walk in the woods. If you're near anywhere they've laid eggs or anything like that, or if it's their sort of just their zone, they will circle you and dive bomb you. So that kind of adds up in its behavior. But I ran and I left this kid behind. I never saw him again, actually. But that was it. We never hung out again. I just left him. I just ran. I just turned and ran. And every time I think I looked back maybe once, but every time I thought, I've got to check out where it's at, I just kept running because it was so loud. And eventually it gave up chase, but there was nobody on the ground with remote controls. I ran maybe 300 yards home. So whatever this was independently alive, very large and very angry. And Ol Lewis from the Center for Tea and Zoology, we've spoken since, because he saw a green one when he was younger in England also, and described it as being exactly the same, very, very large green dragonfly, larger than it should be, prehistoric. And we have fossil records of giant dragonflies, which were a foot across in wingspan or a foot long in their body. And you can sort of Google this and find it's like someone's cracked a rock open, and inside there's the impression of a dragonfly has been preserved in there. You know, it's fallen into a pond and it's settled on the bottom and covered in mud. And thousands of years later, we have this impression of these giant dragonflies. So we know that they did exist at one point. Question is obviously I didn't see a prehistoric dragonfly. Maybe I saw a one-off example of gigantism. Who knows what it is? But it happened, and it terrified me. And again, I'd rather be chased by Bigfoot. I say that with a pinch of salt, but I don't know. I'm always chased by insects, and I'd rather not.
I think you missed your calling. I mean, I think the bugs were trying to tell you need to be an entomologist. Or, I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was
exposure therapy.
Yeah, I was a member of the entomology department in Liverpool at Lime Street Natural History Museum when I was a kid as well. So,
wow,
because they do fascinate me, insects. We're discovering more and more every year. We seem to be behind on how fast they're evolving, and it would be just my luck if there was ever an alien abduction. It would be a giant mantis that takes me.
Oh, if there's screen memories, that is sure as shit what it's going to look like for you. Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Sam?
Yeah.
So this is crazy. Maybe it's synchronicity or just happenstance, which can be one and the same, I guess. Scott and Forrest just did a whole episode over at Astonishing Legends on the Mantis Man, which they actually reached out to me because in the new book I just released, I've got a whole chapter about a gentleman who saw a quote unquote mantis, large, huge life-size mantis in off a river in New Jersey. So Scott and Forrest reached out to me and asked, like, can we tell this story on our episode? I was like, yeah, please, like, get it out there. It's a crazy story. But they also included a bunch of other stories throughout time in history of like these mantis creatures or insectoids. And what really stuck out to me in your story, not so much the one with kind of the human face, but the dragonfly one, is that you ran and left the kid there.
Yeah,
that happened in almost every one of the insectoid stories that Scott and Forrest talked about, and they never spoke to the other person again about it. So I found that really interesting. That like I do not blame you. I would have done the same exact thing. But that your response was the same as a lot of these other people who witnessed like mantis men or insectoids. That it was like, get out of there, and someone else was there, and then like they never speak again about it. That really stuck out to me.
That's bizarre. And in the sort of same vein as synchronicity, you've just reminded me, year and a half ago, there's a huge pine tree outside, and it drops these gigantic pine cones, the ones that are almost pineapple size, on the lawn outside. When there's a bit of a wind in LA, they'll drop about 3 or 4 of them. And if I'm out and I see one, I'll pick it up and bring it in because they're just beautiful. They look good on the shelf, kind of thing. Lovely, huge, big pine cones. One day I brought one in, and little did I know it had a praying mantis egg sac cocoon inside the folds of the pine cone. So when a pine cone dries out, it sort of spreads out, it opens up. And in the gaps, there was this like a sac, like a cocoon pod thing that was in there. I didn't know this until they hatched. And I'm sitting on my laptop working on editing something, and this tiny sort of penny size, bright fluorescent green, miniature, I guess maybe a centimeter tall, little praying mantis just runs across the top of my laptop on the rim of it by my webcam, runs right across, stops, turns its head and looks at me, and I'm thinking, not again. What's
PTSD kicks in immediately.
Oh my god.
What is going on? Yeah, and in my mind I'm hearing zzz. No, just panicking, and then I point at it because my girl Jen, she's on the other side of the room, and I say, look, there's a praying mantis. She turns around because she thinks I'm pointing behind her. And I said to her, how big do you think this thing is? I'm pointing at this. And then she sees it. She's like, oh my God, there's another one. And there was one on the chair. And then there's another one. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That's a God. I swear to God, over the next hour, we filled 2 jars of maybe 200 of these tiny babies.
Wow.
That were all over the apartment. And we had to sort of find the groups of together. And they sort of accumulated in more of little congregations of little crowds, like friends together almost. And we found that the thicker that they became in these little crowds, we eventually found the origin of where they were coming out of, and there was some that were still climbing out of this egg sac, and it looked like something from an alien movie, where, if you remember the movie, the very inaccurate movie of Fire in the Sky, where the actor portraying Travis Walton climbs out of that slimy cocoon thing. They looked like that. These tiny little praying mantis offspring were just crawling out of this cocoon. And I just had to put it outside. So anyway, we emptied the jar outside onto all the plants around, because apparently they're really good. They get rid of pests and things. But my God. So I'm now banned from bringing in pine cones.
I feel like all of your experiences with these mantis and insectoids led to that. A full-on invasion. Like, it was all meant for that moment where you're now their god, Sam. It's like The Simpsons, right? Where like the sea monkeys eventually worship Lisa, I think it was. You're now their god.
Designated media type person for them to relay the message to me with that one first guy.
Yep.
Trying to tell me something, but I didn't get it.
I just love that, large or small, they're doing the slow, creepy head turn towards Sam. Like, poor guy.
Did you guys to play off of that? So my fiance Jane, she was watching on YouTube recently, like, baseball clips, and I was like, oh my God, my dreams come true. My partner's actually interested in baseball. This is amazing. So I was like in shock, and I was also like, yay, finally she's embracing that other half of my life, which I love baseball. I'm a huge New York Mets fan. And I was like, what are you watching? Like, why are you watching baseball YouTube clips? And she turns to me and she's like, look, and she points to the screen. And I guess recently at an MLB game, a player had a huge praying mantis on his hat. And it stayed there for like half the game. He was like playing, and this mantis was just chilling on the top of his hat. And like the announcers couldn't get enough of it. He like like, if you go Google it right now, it's like baseball player befriends praying mantis, and it just chilled on his hat for like half the game.
Just me again. Again, you've triggered my memory. I went to a film premiere in Hollywood at the Egyptian Theatre. A friend of mine had made a movie, and we stood outside having drinks, and I had a fedora on and wearing a suit, and I had like a vodka and coke, and we stood outside chatting to people. And then my friend Liam Sharp, he's a big, he looks like a Viking. He's bald, tattooed, but he's a really polite British comic book artist. He's a legend. He just did Stonehenge. There you go. Stonehenge.
Nice.
Look that up. That's incredible. But he says to me, oh, there's a great big beautiful beetle on your hat. And I froze because I'm just thinking, that doesn't sound right. And because I had, a drink in one hand and I was holding like a book or something in the other, I said, could you take my hat off for me? You just hold the rim of my hat and just take the hat off. And he's like, oh, it's lovely. Oh, and he's making all these, observations of this thing that I can't see, so I'm freaking out. And then he takes the hat off, and what's known as a water bug is actually a very giant orange cockroach that had flown or something onto my hat and was sitting on there. It reminds me of the story you just told me there. And it's just this big orange and black, maybe 4 inches long, this giant water bug. But the thing is, here's the worst part. I'd been talking to a friend for about 10 minutes prior to this, and my neck had itched. So something had crawled up me, and I hadn't realized at the time that it had found its way eventually not only up my trouser leg, up my shirt, up my back, up my neck, behind my ear, up the rim of the hat, over the rim of the hat, and onto the top of my head. And I'd just been stood there chatting away. Nobody saw this until Liam walks up. Oh, you've got a big, beautiful beetle on your head.
Big, beautiful beetle. The beautiful part, you're going, let's not use that verbiage for this creature right here, please. Also, I wonder if the other friend is a true friend, and if it was just not in sight, or if they just didn't want to alert you to the fact that you have a huge, nasty, disgusting creature on your head. So, question that friend.
Right. But I distinctly remember feeling a scratchy tickle on my neck and didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was my hair maybe in the wind, but no.
Oh, no, you're not so lucky. And by the way, when it comes to sightings and encounters where, you have someone there with you, you don't have to run fast. You just have to run faster than they do. So just going to put that out there.
Number one rule.
Yeah. That's it. Bear encounters, cryptid encounters, UFOs, aliens, whatever. Just, you got to run faster than they do. Well, guys, I think we might actually do this on time. The time that we were speaking of. Look at us. This is quite incredible. Any closing thoughts before I have you guys plug everything that you're working on and where people can find you?
Ryan?
Oh gosh, I don't know where to begin. No, this was so refreshing. Like, I cover UFOs. That's I live, breathe, sleep it. So to talk other things with you guys, I love it. I hope we can do this more often. And just to have the three of us back again, it brings back so many amazing memories. So, no, this was like so much fun. So thank you. I know that's, yeah, I know we're still probably going to keep talking, but I did want to get that out there.
Oh, that's great. I completely concur. It's wonderful to see you both. I'm really proud of you both doing so well. And we are still all here. And we're all still in touch. Once in a blue moon, we'll all chip in on each other, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram or on Facebook. And it is great to be back together for these little one-offs occasionally. Maybe we should do it more often. We've still got many, many stories inside ourselves, I'm sure, that we can share, other encounters or sightings that will trigger each other's memories, as Ryan has done there. It's been wonderful. Yeah, it's been really good catching up with you. What's coming up for me? Look out for Kenny Irish, the crypto-punkologist. He's releasing a book later down the line, and I've teamed up with him to do his cover artwork for that. I believe it's published through you, Shannon.
It is.
And of course, David Weatherly's books were ongoing. We're still doing the 50 states, the monster states of the United States. I think we're up to book 14 now.
Dude he just writes in his sleep. I'm convinced of this.
Yeah. I think he's overtaken Nick Redfern at this point. And that's saying something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's lots coming down the line. Stay tuned. Keep your ear to the ground and your eyes on the sky.
Ryan, where can people find you? And Sam, did you want to plug? I mean, your website and Big Cartel and Instagram and Twitter, all this.
Well, you can find all of my links, my Patreon. I draw live every Wednesday. So if you want to hang out and watch me draw and maybe ask questions on how I draw and things like that, or just pick my brains on what my favorite film is at the moment. We just goof around on a Wednesday on Patreon. So that's always fun. But you can find my social media, my print store, my Big Cartel, all of that on Mister-Sam That's me.
And Plaid Man.
Yeah, I mean, I should shamelessly promote. Um, Shannon just published my new book, Stories from Somewhere in the Skies. My second book with Beyond the Fray Publishing, the best publishing company in existence, covering this stuff, in my personal opinion. Um, I just, I was asked, I've been asked by several people who've authored books and had nowhere to turn to get them published, and they were thinking of self-publishing, and they asked me, like, do you have any recs? And I always send them your way, Shan. You guys do incredible work.
Thank you.
It's just, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better experience with both of my books that you guys have published. So yeah, you can get it on. It came out a couple weeks ago. It's on Amazon, paperback, ebook, audiobook coming soon, hopefully. We'll talk about that off air. But yeah, I just finished that one. I'm working on another one that I signed a contract with you guys with. So diligently pumping that out, doing Somewhere in the Skies every Monday as well. I do a live stream every Sunday night, like I mentioned earlier. Latest UFO news and podcast highlights of the week from different shows in these circles we run in. And it's a lot of fun, just trying to build a really cool, laid back community of people interested in this sort of stuff. So yeah, everything I do, literally everything, is at somewhereintheskies.com.
Well, and besides that, don't be so modest. I mean, you can now also, besides your original TV show with the CW, Ryan Sprague can now be seen on Ancient Aliens.
Or just aliens, because we're up to like Pentagon UFO stuff. I don't know why they're calling it Ancient Aliens anymore. But yes, I am on Ancient Aliens, which is hilarious because I've made fun of that show for half my life, and now
weird.
I'm sure they didn't hear any of that. They don't know.
None of that. I'm going to be honest. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had. They are incredibly professional and treat all of their people who are on the show very respectfully. And I've had nothing but good experiences. It's one of those shows where, like, if you don't want to say something, they're not going to make you say it. So anything you've seen of me on that show is because I wanted it to be said. Otherwise, I would literally be like, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about aliens building the pyramids. I'm sorry. Just not in my wheelhouse. So yeah, you can catch me on the current season of that. Still doing a little bit of the Mysteries Decoded over at the CW. So new season premieres this summer. And I think that's it. I've got another television project, like Sam said, that NDAs kind of restrict me from saying anything about it. But we're going to be looking into things and areas of UFO activity that have never, and I promise you, have never been investigated before, in at least to my knowledge. So yeah, be on the lookout for that in the future as well. There's my vague, ambiguous.
Are we going to be seeing your hair slowly start to not only grow longer, but just stand up straighter and get a little more, forward thinking?
Like it's getting abducted. Yeah.
And emoting with your hands quite a bit more? Is that going to catch on?
We got to all do it. How does he do it? There we go. I'm not saying that dude is the nicest guy ever.
He seems very, very nice.
So genuine.
Yeah.
Such a sweetheart. He actually did a testimonial on the back of the book. He's the top testimonial, Giorgio Tsoukalos. Such a sweetheart. He bought the book the day it came out, and he's been a really big supporter of me in all of my endeavors. So say what you will about Ancient Aliens, but that dude knows his stuff, and a gentleman through and through. So yes, I'm hoping, if I do keep my hair, I hope I'm not going bald just yet. I hope it gets taller instead of shorter, for sure.
Yes, it's not a bad place to be. All right, guys. Yes. Well, I will end the recording for Patreons and for, of course, the listening audience out there. Now, for anybody listening on episode ITF 400 via your podcatcher, if you are interested in watching this video along with the audio, you can sign up on our Patreon sites. So you can just go to patreon.com and search, I'm assuming, our names. Oh, no, Ryan's under Somewhere in the Skies, I believe. And then you can search Into the Fray. that way, and also Sam. So that is a good way to get extra content from all three of us. But thank you guys for being here, and we really do need to do this sooner rather than later. It is way long overdue. So thank you so much for coming back on.